Hello and welcome to Dream It, Dare It, Do It, Live the Life You Want. I am Jasmine and I'm your host. And today I am so happy to have again. You guys have seen her before, but in the early seasons, now I'm having her again. And you've met her before. Her name is Fiona Jacob. Hi, Fiona. How are you?
Jasmine, as you're saying that, I felt like I was in Bridgerton season 4 and season one, and I should be the love interest. But never mind. Hi, Jasmine. It's great to be here. It's an honor to be on your podcast. It's an honor to be back. Lovely to see you.
Yeah. So, guys, as a reminder, you guys know I did Super Coach Academy with Michael Neill, and the way that I met Fiona is because Fiona was my mentor coach. She was basically my first 3P mentor coach, and she just showed me so much love. And so, I love her. I think anybody that talks to her loves her. But that's what I wanted you guys to know about that. So, today we were having a little chat. And I know you've probably heard, throughout my latest episodes, because I've been doing these little clips of that I call my daily, my not a daily inspiration fix, but I call it the inspiration fix. So I kind of just rant, talk, say, do stuff. And the whole point is what I'm seeing is that the more I talk with people, it's like people forget to look within. And I think that looking within is like the place where you can find freedom. And so this is what I would like to discuss with Fiona, because Fiona is a three principles coach. She is are you in Sweden? Is that where you are?
So, just to confuse everybody, I'm Irish. I'm married to a Swede, and I'm living in Sweden.
Okay, there
So
you
we're
go.
all good. We're all good in the countries.
Yes, we are international people. Uh,
Mm.
so, um, what I love to have a conversation about is what I'm seeing this for myself. Now I'm not and I'm seeing it for myself. So you guys have to look and see for yourself. I'm seeing for myself that sometimes there are things that I want, like, my podcast, Live the Life You Want. There are some things that I want, and I'm just not getting, I guess. I just don't have that want thing. Now, I'm not talking about I want to have a smartwatch, which I do. I just got a new one. Because when I want one, I just go get it, right? But things like I want, I want to be happy all the time. This is one like thing that wouldn't it be great if we were happy all the time? I want to be unfazed by anything that somebody else does. Oh, that would be so cool also, right?
I
Uh,
want to hang around for that one.
yeah. But that's not always feasible, as we all know. We get angry, we get sad, we get upset, we get offended, we get like, it's all your fault, Fiona, it's all your fault. And
Excellent.
And when we're in that space, there's inevitably, if it has nothing to do with you, inevitably you wind up in a space of victimhood, I guess, right? Like you become a victim of your life. And I just don't like being in that space. So I think that's why I kind of started looking within. If it's not you, then it has to be me. And that started earlier, like early in my early, I'm gonna say in my 30s, I remember leaving a job because everybody at that job sucked. Like I can say the words. They were all assholes, and I forget that it's my podcast. Uh they were all assholes, and I was great, and this and that, right? And I left that job and I wound up in another job. And all of a sudden, within like 2 to 3 months, the feelings I was having in the other job, and I had been in that other job 10 years, those same feelings were back. And the thought occurred to me like, how could that be? The world, in the world, there's only assholes. I'm the only great one. And I kind of like, wait, I was like, wait, there's one predominant factor in those two places, and that was me. And I kind of like started looking within and started to, and this started, the evolution of looking within, and it goes deep and deep and deep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what is your experience, Fiona, in that respect? Like, have you experienced something similar for yourself of not looking within?
Oh my God. Well, before we got onto the podcast, I was actually telling you about a story of when I was, I think, 4 or 5 years of age. And it's simply this, and my mum she had uterine cancer and she had been really, really ill for quite a long time. In fact, she was being hospitalized in England. So we were in Ireland, my dad and I and my two brothers, and my mum was in England having radiotherapy and chemotherapy. She was really unwell. And then she was being moved back to Ireland after all of her treatment. And probably in those days, one had a little rest. You know, when you were sick, you kind of went to the hospital for a couple of weeks just to get some rest and so forth. And I remember and I think she might have been a nun, but she could have been a nurse. So this is a fuzzy memory. And she said, are you Peggy's daughter? And I went, yeah, 5-year-old, very shy, and, in my nice shiny shoes and all of that, coming to see my mom. And she went, now you need to be very kind to your mother. You need to be nice to her because she's been very, very sick. And you know something, Jasmine? What happened in those moments is I had started to have this bodily belief that my job in life was to be kind, was to be nice, was when everything else was in chaos or confusion or there was anger, it was my job to to quieten it all down, to settle it all down. That was my responsibility in life. I went on to become a nurse. A nurse, of course I did, because that's what you do when you're a kind person and you're giving of yourself and so forth. And I, like you, learned the principles probably now about 15 years ago, which is kind of two different conversations within one conversation, if I was to say it this way. And the thing that shifted for me in learning how we work as human beings is learning that we've got these gorgeous, delicious, amazing factory apps that come with us simply because we're born human. And what we get is we get these delicious things, like we get the gift of clarity, which I love. I love going, oh yes, clear, make a decision, and off I go. I have started to really love the experience of feeling creative. So that's also an intelligence that we get simply because we're born. We get the beautiful gift of love and contentment and joy and peace of mind and grace. And all of these, I would call them extraordinary, but they're actually ordinary, impersonal intelligences that run us, run me, run you, run every single one of the 8 billion people on the planet. But there is kind of another system that we have to work with as well, which is how we create our experience of life in the moment to moment. And in my world, there's a crazy person living in my head a lot of the time. So sometimes she's happy, and sometimes she's joyful, and sometimes she's kind, and sometimes she is so fucking irritated. Sorry about the podcast. But that she, if she had a weapon, she might actually do damage. And it's really interesting that when you've grown up to see yourself as a person who's kind and nice and supportive and loving and cares about people. And then when something in the realm of irritation or anger or sadness or frustration or rejection shows up, you're going, well, what's that? Thinking that it's got some really important information to tell you about the world or about other people or about the relationship you're in or about how the dog is being today or about my parents. Because that is that is a natural creative process that comes into our mind. But between you and me, Jasmine, there are thoughts that come into our mind that we just let pass through the system, like flying birds in the sky, you know, we take no notice. And there's some that we go, well, this is really important, and I really need to, I need to do something about this. This is telling me something important that I need to pay attention to. And we get lost in this just noisy mind that's taking us nowhere, but feels like we need to pay attention to it. And we get lost in the irritation, in the frustration, in the anger, in the sadness. And it's just like, no, this is meaningful. No, this is how it is. This is life. A bit like your story of the job. It's like, they are idiots and I am fine. And that, when we believe our thinking to be real in the moment, which of course it looks real, it feels real, right? Then that's how we see the world. I'm perfect, they're idiots. I'm insecure, and you know, everything in the world is here to make me. And so whatever is going on for us, once we start to make that thinking important, we're kind of down the swirling water of the bathtub, you know, we're going on the plunge plug hole, and we're kind of lost. But what I've started to see, and this is more recent, I think, is that we're all of it. So people think, oh, I should be happy, clappy all the time. Oh, I need to be joyful all the time. And it's kind of, that's just a false, that's a thought too, in a way. It's like, I should be better. I need to be better at, as opposed to, we are already so well made, that when we fall out of our thinking mind, we just fall back into the beauty and the peace and the presence and the love we are. And when we're lost in thought, we're lost in thought.
Yeah.
There's nothing more than that. It's really quite simple. We're one place or the other.
Mm. We're one place or the other. Like, it's funny because when you were speaking, you said they look real. The thoughts look real. No, the thoughts are real. They are real. Question is, are they true? Like, are
Oh,
they
yes, nice distinction. I
right?
love
Right? Because I like, that's what I hear, you know, like I'm like, I know when I talk to somebody and they're like, but this is so unfair. I have to do something about that. Yeah, that's real.
Yeah,
That's real. But do you have to do something about it in the moment right now, the way that you're thinking?
yeah. So can I build, do you mind if I build on that, Jasmine? Because I
Yes,
think
please. I would love it.
absolutely. So absolutely. So what I would say is, I'm going to use a very strange metaphor. Have you ever watched a lottery or a bingo, you know, where those balls kind of jump up and down and whatever?
Yeah.
And the only reason I'm bringing this up is to help people see how random our thinking is. So it's a bit like, we got ball number 11. Ball number 11, frustration. Okay, and then we put it into the system, and then we get the feeling of frustration. And it's almost like we put a pair of glasses on then that the whole world looks like, I'm frustrated with this or that or whatever. But if you call it a random generator, then you could also get 22. 22 could be, oh, grace. And then you put that into the system when we have thoughts of, oh, okay, whatever, I can be kind to myself, or I can be kind to them, or it's okay, or whatever. And you can have that feeling. And then the pair of glasses that we see the world through is different. And in the next moment, you can get happy, number three. And then because it's the system, Jasmine, that's more important than the content, or more important than the particular ball that we have in the moment, so to speak, metaphorically. So how the system works is whatever thought we think, we will have the correlating feeling. So happy thought, happy feeling. You look out in the world, you go, oh, what a beautiful world, what a beautiful day. Oh, I love my husband. Oh, I love my dog. And then you put irritated into the system, like number, whatever we said it was, number 11. And then we go, "Rrr." We feel irritated, and the irritated feeling is like, look at it, and we feel irritated. But the system will give us the thought we're thinking in the moment and the corresponding feeling, and that gives us our experience of life. But it's more important to think about the system than the content a little bit. And what I mean by that is the system is true. Whatever you put in there, you're going to feel, and that will be your experience. You can also observe an experience at some point and not get caught up in it, but it will give you an experience. And the system does that all the time. It does it 60,000 thoughts a day, 60,000 approximately. Now, the content that goes through, which is, again, back to our random generator, number 11, number 22, number 3, number 17, number 12, is the content that goes through the system. So thought, feel that thought, and then it'll be experienced. But 10 to 15 seconds later, that thought can be gone. You have another one, and you have another one, and you have another one behind it. So the nature of thought and feeling is you have the thought, you feel it, and then it moves through the system. Now, why is that cool to know? It's cool to know because if you're feeling really off, really upset, really angry, really irritated, really happy even, what that's telling you is you're feeling this thought. This is what this thought feels like. So happy feels like this. It's also telling you, well, irritated feels like this when you're feeling irritated. It doesn't tell us anything about the world, but it looks like it is. It looks like it's telling us about the food at the restaurant, or the, the guy from DHL who doesn't, put the packet at the right place, or whatever. So it's more important that we're able to see the system and how the system works, and then know that within the system, we will have this kind of roller coaster of emotion that's following our thought in the moment. So I find that really helpful, because if I get frustrated and irritated with my husband, which I do from time to time, we love each other very dearly, and he's not perfect and neither am I. Then if I'm awake to it in the moment, I go, oh, this has really nothing got to do with him. This is me feeling my thinking in the moment. And this is what irritation, a thought of irritation feels like. Now, when I'm awake to that or aware to that, I'm not perfect. Sometimes I'm gone on that train of thought. But if I am awake and aware, and I go, oh, I got a choice. Because we do. I can be absolutely 100% irritated for as long as I want to be. Yay, Fiona. But then I know I'm irritated. Or I can decide, oh, don't need to. And it might take a few moments for that to fall out of the system, but then I go, oh, okay. And I don't do damage. And what I mean by doing damage is, screaming like a banshee at my husband, going, oh, you're a banshee. And it's really cool just to know how we work, because we don't lose ourselves if we know how the system actually works. And we also know that beyond that system of creating our experience, we've got this deeper nature that is always there too. And so
that reminds me of, like sometimes we could be, angry at someone, and then and you could be ruminating on something on your end, and all of a sudden, the phone rings, and lo and behold, the person says, this person you're angry at is presently at the hospital because this has happened, and you're like, it's all gone. Because like you could just pop that balloon of thought, and then you can just go straight back into your heart, and all of a sudden nothing matters.
Right. That's a beautiful description. Or the fire alarm could go off and you run out of the house because, the toast or whatever, and you go, oh, what was I thinking about before the fire alarm went off? It's like that. It's like as soon as you're not just caught up in the machinations of this noisy mind, when we wake up to it, it's like, oh, okay, whatever that was. Yep, okay, gone. Because thought doesn't leave any residue. It's a self-righting mechanism. So we don't have to wrestle with either a feeling we don't like or a thought we don't like for very long.
So it's like, before this understanding, it was kind of like, that's it. I'm crazy. I'm just a crazy person. I'm pissed off one moment and I'm happy the other moment. Like what's wrong with me? And I know this for a fact because when I was a kid, my father used to call me it's a French expression. He would call me la machine à piton. So he says, you're like a machine that has buttons. One day you press the button of I'm laughing. The next day you're pressing the button of I'm crying. Then you're that other second you're like angry. Like you're just pressing buttons. And as I got into this understanding, I was like, yeah, at, I was a kid that didn't have any thinking about her emotions then. So I was just living through my emotions. But because of this thing that my father kept telling me, well, I would hide. Let's say I would be laughing. I couldn't laugh too hard. I had to tone it down. If I was crying, I had to hide that I was crying. If I was sad, I have to not say that I was sad. Like, so I've been, you know, suffocating my emotions for the better part of my life because of something that happened when I was a kid. And now, and what I'm seeing in the past few months, what I'm seeing is that whenever I'm like, I'm going to have these emotions, I'm going to just like, you're going to have them. And then I see myself having the emotion and I'm like, you're just going to go through it. You're going to live it, live the emotion. And then I can hear the automatic judgment of, no, you're not supposed to. No, you're not supposed to. No, you're not supposed to. Right. And I'm like, and that's where I'm suffering. It's not having the emotion. It's the beating myself up about the fact that I just had an emotion. Well, guess what? I'm human. And if I look at the pattern in my life, I'm very sensitive. And therefore, I have emotions and I usually have them pretty high or pretty low. So it's kind of like just let yourself have them, and maybe I'll be able to learn how to navigate through them instead of, you know, stifling myself and then feeling, because I feel sad when I'm, if I'm not allowed to be me and it has nothing to do with you, I'm not allowed to be me because of me.
Yeah. What I hear, Jasmine, is something really, it just came up for me as a couple of words. One of them is, as human beings, we're looking for freedom from stuff. We're looking for freedom from stress and distress and upset and irritation and frustration, because they're not nice emotions. We don't particularly like feeling them. And particularly when we don't understand how the system works, so we don't understand that, okay, you feel your thinking, that gives your experience, but it'll be gone in 15 seconds if you let it. And you'll have another new thought and another new feeling, because that's how the system works. We're trying to get rid of it. And then we judge that, like, well, why am I insecure again? Or why am I irritated again? And then we're lost in this noisy head of thinking that doesn't even let the first thought move on, because it's almost like it solidifies itself with glue and goes, well, let's judge what we were thinking and then keep it in place for even longer, and let's suffer even more. Hooray, that's not the best strategy. Now, what you're talking about, which I love, is you're talking about how can we have freedom with. And when I say freedom with, it's freedom with the emotions, some of them we love and some of them that we don't love particularly. How can we feel the feeling? Not judge it, not think it's all about other people or the world outside, but know for sure, wow, I'm feeling my thinking and it feels like crap. Okay. There's something really beautiful, because feelings are to be felt. And the way I see feelings now, Jasmine, is really, I've learned it from one of my mentors. And I look at it like a Geiger counter. You know what a Geiger counter is for radiation? It's kind of going when you're if you were coming up against radiation, you have it in radiology places, but also if you were, let's say, at Chernobyl and you wanted to protect yourself and make sure that you didn't have radiation. So you have this Geiger counter and it has a very strange to let you know that you're very close to something.
Yeah.
Well, I use that metaphor for our feelings are like a Geiger counter for our thinking. Now think about it this way, Jasmine. If you were coming up on Chernobyl or someplace that had a nuclear spill, you kind of want the Geiger counter to tell you really early that you're getting close to the radiation so you don't harm yourself, right? So the way that I see it is that feelings are exactly the same thing. They're like our Geiger counter for whether our thoughts are kind of in a direction that's useful for us, that's expansive for us, that's easy, that's graceful for us, that's peaceful for us, or they're telling us that we're really noisy thinking. It's really urgent. It's really intense. We really need to do something about this now. What's wrong with me? You know, the good and the bad and the right and the wrong. We get caught up, and our feeling is there to go, hey, Jasmine, I love you. I want you to wake up to the fact that your thinking's way off base, honey, way off. And it's like the hand of God, if you want to say it, or the hand of the divine intelligence going, wake up, you're lost. You're lost. You don't need to stay there. Wake up. And in the waking up, we become aware, oh my God, I've been so lost in my thinking. Wow. Cool. Good that I was woken up. And I get really so excited and delighted, like, thank God I woke up, because otherwise it would have been on that train of thought. We'd have left the station. We'd have gone halfway to, I don't know, Oslo. That's a long distance. And it's like, oh no, our feelings are telling us something about our thinking in the moment. And it's the most beautiful wake up alarm clock, guide, Geiger count, whatever word you want to use, that I'm getting so lost in my head right now. And it's beautiful. It's
It is.
beautiful mechanism.
But you know what's showing up, Fiona, is now we're talking about these emotions, right? We're talking about emotions that are pretty, anger is one of them. And then there's, despair or whatever. Those emotions are like, I think we're used to identifying them, right? So it's cool to know this in this respect too, but there are also feelings. Like an emotion is basically a thought in your body, right? But we have feelings that are not so loud, that are still red flags telling us, hey, you're going in the wrong directions. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because as you were speaking, what showed up for me was, sometimes you have this decision that you have to make. I don't have a specific example, but let's say you kind of like choose, oh, I'm gonna go that way. But you have the feeling inside that says, no, 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 don't go that way. But you're like, no, no, I'm going that way. And you still go that way, and you continue to go that way, and you still have the feeling that's telling you, no, no, don't go that way, but you're not hearing it. How do you see it? Like, if it's not as loud, if it's not as obvious as an emotion in your body where you get totally sidetracked, how do you do it? Like I work with solopreneurs, right? This is what I do. And I'm at a place where when I talk to people, I can feel it. Like I even get the goosebumps when I'm like, oh, we're touching something, like we're touching now. We're touching this place where it's gonna go and I can feel it in my body. Like I get like a sensation.
Mm.
And then there are other times where I'm like, nah. And I'm just like, that's not right. Like, and they see it too, and they're going, what do you mean? What do you see? And then we get into a conversation and they start seeing something that they haven't said. It's like working on top of something.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know that I'll go in the direction that you want me to go, Jasmine, so feel free to just course correct me if I've gone off. So I guess you would say I'm very tuned into what I know I know.
That's what I wanted to say, tuned. Thank you.
Um, And then sometimes I also know when I don't know, when I don't know something. And that's also really cool. And then sometimes I get a sense, not this, not this. Now, that in my world is also wisdom. Now, wisdom doesn't always go head in this direction. It can also say, don't head in that direction. I mean, wisdom can be both wisdom, insight, or creative, whatever juices you want to call that, or intuitive sense. It's like, what I noticed is the difference between my noisy head and my wisdom is very kind to me. And say, not this, or this is it. It's not, don't do this, you big idiot. It's about bloody time that you because that we can know what's going on in our head because it's kind of, it's unkind in my world. You know, our noisy head is not always kind to us. It keeps us in guilt or shame or judgment or right or wrong, or you should be better or this or that, or what's wrong with you, you don't know, is a conversation I've been having recently with a client. She's been in the, what's wrong with me, I don't know, as opposed to, well, isn't it cool that you know you don't know?
Yeah.
And she doesn't
And it's
think,
so funny. I had a conversation with a friend yesterday and I said, you know what? When I talked to Fiona, I was telling her I was talking to you. It's really about falling in love with I don't know.
I love knowing I don't know. Now, what most people want to do with that is they want to put that into their brain and then think about it a million, gazillion, trillion, no, a lot of times, and try to get to clarity through a noisy head. And it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. The more you're in your noisy head and the more you're on a train of thought that is, let me get more, I need to understand more, I need to think about it more, I need to do a SWOT analysis, I need to do the noise, 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 noise. You're moving further and further away from your innate clarity, the clarity that lives inside of us. That's kind of going, hello, whenever you're ready, I have an answer for you. But we're in, no, I've got this. We put our hand in the machine of how it works and we start pulling the levers ourselves, thinking that we need to do this. Well, we don't. It's good to know the question, what do I know? Do I know to go ahead or not go ahead or whatever, or do I not know? The thing is, when we know, we'll know. And then we can take action or make it that decision or whatever. But we can rest in the not knowing as much as the knowing. Because it doesn't mean that we will never know it or that we need to think about knowing it. It just means that something's been midwifed right now and it's coming from the place of the already always known, just not by us right now. So we kind of need to let it be birthed in its own proper way, I would say.
Yeah. It's kind of like, if we come back to a conversation, what we were talking about a little earlier, like we're looking for freedom. Like we're all looking for freedom. And we live in our heads. Well, what's in our heads has already happened. It's already known. It's not freedom. It's a repeat of whatever
Yeah.
has happened. So if we can learn again how to be, because we all know this. We've all been there. We just caught up in our heads, right? But if we can learn again to live now and see what now feels like and see what shows up in your consciousness now, not in your intellect, but what's going on in your consciousness now, you'll know. You'll be like, huh, maybe I'll have a salad today. Not because you're going to have a salad because you need to have a salad, because if you don't have a salad, then you're just going to have chocolate. And if you just have chocolate, you're going to gain weight. And then you're just going to be,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Just what do you feel now? Like when I do these podcast episodes, where the heck are we going? I have no idea. I mean, we start with something and we lead to somewhere else, but it's in the moment. What's happening now?
It's It's a beautiful, beautiful place to start to recognize, I think, Jasmine. Because there's only two places you or I or any of the 8 billion people on the planet can be. We're either here present in the now with all of those gorgeous and delicious gifts that we talked about. You know, the experience of grace, the experience of peace of mind, contentment, joy, insight, wisdom, creativity. They all come with us in the now, and they help us navigate life with a lot more ease and grace. Or we're lost in our thinking. Now, I don't think that there's anything wrong with being lost in your thinking or hanging out in this beautiful space that we kind of point to and say, you know, find home or find peace of mind. To me, the more important thing is knowing who you are. Because once we know where we are, like if we have the awareness, oh, wow, I'm just so lost in my head, or I'm so irritated, or I'm so much in irritated thinking. It's a bit like, for me, Jasmine, I don't know if it's a bit like being drunk, but not that drunk. You know, you kind of hand the keys over and go, you know what, I've had a few drinks. I'm not driving home. But you know, you've enough awareness. Well, this is the same thing metaphorically.
Yeah.
Though we're lost in thought, we're not that lost in thought.
Yeah.
And then we have a choice. We have a choice to come back to this now. We have a choice to be present together. We have a choice to fall back into the beauty and the well-being and the flow and energy and aliveness that we are in the moment. We don't have to, but we can. And when we do, it's delicious. And when we don't, okay, then we have another next moment. We've lots of nows to hang out in and become aware.
We have lots of nows to hang out in, guys. Just remember that. We have lots of now to hang out in. Fiona, it's already been our time. We've already gone through I think it's a perfect time to stop.
Me too.
So before we leave, if people want to get in touch with you, like, can they?
No, I have bars and all my phones, and I hide in a cave in the Himalayas.
Well, there is, if you're on the in the Americas, there's like a little bit of a time difference between us, but Fiona makes it happen.
I do. I make it happen. I've got lots of wonderful, wonderful clients in the US. So you'll find me on Fiona F. Jacob on Instagram. You will find me on LinkedIn under Fiona Jacob. There's lots of things that I love doing with people, and it's certainly to help them get unstuck and find the beauty that they are and the well-being and truth of who they are. So most welcome and most invited if you want to have a conversation around that.
Right. Well, thank you very, very much for having accepted my invitation again. And I'll probably have you again, but we'll see when.
I am always honored, Jasmine. It's such fun to be in conversation with you. It's even bigger than fun. It's a beautiful exploration of two souls. And I love that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Everybody who's listening, I'm going to say, hey, dream it, dare it, do it, live the life that you want. And I'll see you on the next episode. You have a good one. Bye.